can go ahead and get started. We got 4 bills on the agenda. We go ahead and take those up. I'll call up House Bill 1229. It's a strike all. Basically, we took the House bill and it's dealing with education scholarship accounts. As you know, that this is similar to the Senate bill that we filed, but we never brought up just because we had the House bill. And so what this does, it helps try to alleviate some of the wait list that those folks seem to believe that's out there. And so all this does is it requires that if a person or parent on behalf of their student applies for an ESA, that they be accepted into the school first before applying for the ESA. It also requires that a school, in order to be eligible to receive any funds, they must be certified and qualified to provide eligible services for a student's disability or special education needs, or provide services addressing the student's IEP. Schools must report student data on the advanced placement examinations or college or university admissions, and they must provide information on the graduation requirements rates. This kind of comes out of the peer reports that we've seen over the years. And if, so that explanation of 1229, it's a lot more language than what the House bill is, but I'll be glad to yield for any questions. There is no reverse repealer in it. If someone wants a reverse repealer, I'll be amenable to that as well. But if there are no questions, I'll move for a title sufficient do pass strike all. Senator Blunt makes that motion. All in favor say aye. Any questions on the strike all? Any comments, anything else? Senator Blunt moves title sufficient do pass strike all. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's jump down to House Bill. I don't see Senator Delano here. I'll take up House Bill 1258. That is something that comes from, I talked to Senator Johnson about this. I talked to Mayor Barker out of Hattiesburg. Talked to the House about this. I talked to Senator Watson, former Senator, Secretary Watson now. What this does, it deals with 16 section land, and that currently, apparently, there is, this only deals with the Hattiesburg School District. It extends the 16 section land along a blighted corridor on Broadway Drive. They need to help extend the lease on this. That originally it was a 99-year lease on 16 section land. All the debt on the lease has been paid up, and there are less than 30 years remaining on the lease. However, according to Toby Barker and Secretary Watson, who's met with the people down there, they want to extend the lease up to 25 years, renegotiate some type of lease payment, because they haven't been collecting any money on this lease for several years. And so, and when the lease was actually entered into 99 years ago, the fair market value is a lot less than it is now. So they want to extend the lease by 25 years. And that way they can renegotiate the lease, extend it by 25 years, and actually start collecting some revenue on it, so they can bring some industry to that blighted area, is what they tell me. So information I received, the school district got $450 in 1955 for this 99-year lease. The lease are in the 77th year, allows for another 25 years. So this will help provide revenue for the lease of the 16 section land, as well as provide some help with bringing industry to this area. So that's the explanation of the bill. That's all I know about the bill. I think Representative Percy Watson is a school board attorney for this district, and he presented on the floor. So obviously he's in favor of it as well. So I'll yield for any questions. Senator Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand I think the concept here, and this is obviously has less than 30 years left on the lease. It was 1954, is that right?
55.
55. So we're just under 30 years, or is that right? Are we over a little over 30? 45. It was 99 years, so it'd be about now. Yep. I just wondered if it would be more prudent to go to a 10-year lease. They got the remaining 30, unless they're talking about canceling the 30, which I don't know that they can do unless the tenant's doing that and go to an additional 10. It would, at least it would comport with the existing laws where typically you have 25 and in some cases 40-year leases under certain exceptions, as opposed to getting to what's now going to be basically a 55-year lease.
Right.
And I don't want to
Yeah.
mess the bill up right here, but I just think that would, at least we can conform it to something that we've got in our code sections right now.
I have no preference on 25, 10, whatever. I just know that this is what I guess the folks involved agreed on, but you know, the bill's in front of us. We can do whatever we want with it. So if you want to make that amendment to change it to 10, I'll recognize you for that amendment.
Do you know, or does anyone know, I'd like to ask the question before I do that. Does anyone know the rationale behind the additional 25 years? They may be looking to do some kind of commercial lease. That's commercial property probably right there. But I think everybody else in the state is probably dealing with either 25 or 40-year lease.
Well,
So why are we going to 55?
I think we got someone here could answer that. Bill Cheney from the Secretary of State's office.
Perfect.
You helped negotiate this and meet with them and draft the bill, I believe. Isn't that right, Bill? Come on up here to the podium if you don't mind. Push the button so it's green. And if you could answer Senator Hobson's question, maybe give us some background if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. What's going on is these leases are really down about 25 years, and they were part of the 99-year leases that were paid up that under then Secretary of State Malpass were deemed valid because at the time they were fair market value. You now have this commercial corridor. They want to borrow money so that they can reinvest, improve the area, but they can't do that because there's only like 20 years left. Banks are now wanting 15 years past the mortgage. So they're trying to bump it up to where there's a 45-year period so that they can, you know, get a mortgage, invest that and improve that area, because if not, no lessee wants to turn in their lease because they've got 20 years, quote, free left. So this is a negotiated extension to allow them to then have enough time to go to the bank and say, hey, look, banker, I've got 40 years, please give me a loan so I can transition to a better type of commercial endeavor.
Chairman, if I may ask a follow-up to that. Bill, thank you. And you know more about it than anybody in the state. Could we do a 40-year, could we add 10 to the existing 30 and get it to a 40-year lease? And I mean, I don't know of anybody financing over 30 years anyway.
Well, when we looked at how many years are left and the new financing requirements, the reason we have a 40-year term is the banks used to want 10 years past the mortgage. Now they're wanting 15 to 20. So they figure in a 25-year, because our lease statutes now say you can get an extension for 25. So this was kind of giving a buffer for some of those leases. What if one comes up next year or the year after? Are they then underneath the years? So 25 just seemed like it was reasonable, but not too long of a period. It was what kind of worked out best, knowing the area, knowing the number of leases. If the committee, if you're set on 10, I can try to go run the numbers and see, but it's really being driven more by the lending institutions now wanting more than just 10 years past the term.
Well, maybe I'm confused about this. I thought what we were doing was the company that has the lease has 30 years left, and we're going to give them an additional 25 years. And maybe we're doing something different where they can buy out the lease from somebody and then they're going to refinance it. I mean, I don't have any problem. The 25 is permitted anyway, and I think the 40, if I remember, would be in churches and other exceptions.
The thing is, they've got less than 30, and to get a loan, you're probably needing 40 to 45. So you're right at a 15-year extension, not just a 10-year extension. And because the statute talked to 25, and because of just some of the different financing, the decision made, let's do a 25-year extension. And it's going to be negotiated by the school. It might not be 25, but that was just it's to allow financing. And so this area just doesn't decline for 10 to 15 more years.
Okay, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Senator Hobson. Senator Boyd? Question
Bill.
for me or Bill?
Bill,
Okay.
Bill, thanks so much. So when the lease is negotiated, are you going to be able to go back and get the fair market value of the property with escalation clauses in that so that you hopefully can maintain those fair market value throughout the period that you're proposing on this?
That is going to be my recommendation to the school district, but the way this is written, the school district is going to negotiate what the consideration is for this 25-year period.
Okay. Y'all still, the Secretary of State still has to sign off on all leases, correct?
We sign off when asked. That's 29-3-1 says we are the supervisory trustee, which gets to be broadly interpreted depending on how hard some school districts want to push it. So, but we still try to review all leases. They all have to be filed with us. It just comes kind of a negotiation mechanism.
Thank you.
Senator Blunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Bill, tell me if I just heard you right. There's nothing in the bill that requires fair market value for the lease, as long as the board and the current lessee agree, and that y'all may or may not review the lease to make sure the consideration is adequate.
That is correct. Line 68 says, under any additional agreed upon terms.
I'm not off.
Senator Blunt, you want to make an amendment? You're recognized to do so at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that any extension of the lease or any be for fair market value.
So you heard the amendment. You have a question for Senator Blunt, Senator McMahon on the amendment?
So, Bill, have you been in the room with the school district and the current leaseholders? Is there an agreement in place? Are we about to corrupt that agreement or put that agreement in jeopardy?
I have not been in any meeting where negotiation has gone on as to this. I have met with the mayor, one or two lessees, and the city as they're looking at how can we facilitate prevention of blight and prevention of an area going down. And what was suggested, there were recommendations thrown out as to if they spent 100% of the fair market value of the land on improvement, would that be a consideration? And there were too many variables of trying to lock it into a sum specific or a improvement specific, because as y'all well know, when you start trying to micromanage it into a statute, it really gets to a problem.
That's what I'm asking.
The intent was, okay, school, y'all sit down with the lessee, look at the project, look at what they're trying to improve, and work out a deal financially that's in the best interest of the school, which is getting no money now because they got all their money 88, 86 years ago to come up with a deal that's business development friendly, school friendly. So I can't really, I mean, that was what the parameters were when we were working on this.
Is that school, this is specific to one area. Is the school board over there in that area elected or appointed? Do you know?
I believe they are elected, but I don't remember exactly.
Are they elected? I personally am gonna vote against the amendments because I don't want to do anything to put anything in jeopardy with this school board. If the school board and the secretary has worked with the current leaseholders, I don't want to put that in jeopardy, sitting here in this room, not having any more information than we have.
Thank you. Senator McMahon, do you have a question, Senator Boyd, on the amendment for Senator Blunt?
On the amendment.
You're recognized.
unless the trust law has changed and the case law has changed on this in the last number of years, Senator Blunt's amendment just conforms with the present case law in that the trustees are responsible for trying to obtain fair market value. So I would support the amendment. And I believe it's consistent with the trustees' prevailing responsibility in this situation.
If, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other.
I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Just for clarification purposes on the amendment, this amendment would establish the minimum as fair market value, but they can negotiate beyond that if they want to.
Yes, I mean, yes. I don't know the people on the, who are on either side of this deal, but I know that, in the past, we had home cooking on a lot of these leases. And I'm just trying to avoid that and just ask for fair market value. And if there are no other questions, Mr. Chairman, move adoption amendment.
You heard the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We're back on the strike all. Senator
One
Hick-
question for Bill. Do you know how much property is involved in this lease?
This one section is 640 acres. It's in South Hattiesburg. Part of it on the south and east side of the railroad track is residential. The other part is commercial. There is several creeks running through there. If I had to guess, probably about 400 acres of it is zoned and classified as commercial. If you've ever driven through that area of Hattiesburg, that's where a lot of the car dealerships used to be. And that's kind of the area south of Main downtown.
Senator Polk, you have a question for Mr. Cheney?
No question of, well, I guess it would end up being a question. First, I want to say, a lot of people don't know this, but the district I represent has about 10% of the Hattiesburg population. It also has about 60%, sometimes 70% of the income for the city of Hattiesburg. We also educate the city of Hattiesburg children in the Lamar County School District at no cost to Hattiesburg, apparently. My question would be this: since this is 16th section land in the Hattiesburg School District, would the funds go only to the Hattiesburg School District, or would it be shared with the Lamar County School District?
Mr. Cheney?
Per my understanding of 29-3-119 through about 125, it would be income to the Hattiesburg School District. With that being a shared section, that portion of the revenue would be shared. Just like, there are a few leases in that section that are shared. And if I'm not mistaken, that section also gives a small portion to the Petal School District. So absent some ruling or determination that I'm not aware of, that income would be treated just like any other income and shared.
Thank you, Senator Polk. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Do I hear a motion? Okay, all right. No motion made. Thank you, Mr. Cheney. All right, let's call up the next item on the agenda. Actually, let's skip over that. Wait for Senator Delano if he can make it. Otherwise, we'll take up House Bill 1683, which is the Charter School Act. This is a strike all. It will insert the language that we passed in our Senate bill to remove the 3% fee for the authorizer board, make it a straight, act like an agency that come before the legislature asking for funds like every other agency, as well as go from ADM to ADA. And that's all it does. Like I said, it's the same as the Senate bill. Any questions? Senator Bryan.
Well, I'm certainly support the Senate bill. It just seems to me with a House bill with all these code sections, and given that we're dealing with charter schools, there's reason for concern to have all of this in conference. Can you make me feel better?
You can, I'll ask that you be placed on the conference committee if it makes that far. Would that
Can I
help?
have a +1 on the conference?
Well, that's asking maybe a little bit too much at this point, Senator Bryan. But I'll keep that in mind as we move forward. Any more comments, questions on the strike all? Move for adoption of the strike all. All in favor, say aye. Okay. Title sufficient do pass on the strike all. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Go to the last bill that had come back to us from appropriations with some tweaks, good tweaks. Let me pull up my notes here. I can find them. This is the compact bill. Obviously, 12 states, including Alabama and Florida, have passed this. So what the revisions that were made in appropriations does, it makes it clear that all rules promulgated by the commission are the only effective in Mississippi if they're consistent with Mississippi law. Provides that any requirement for fees or dues paid to the commission by Mississippi are subject to our appropriations process. It restricts the commission's right to sue the state for damages or attorney's fees, restricts the commission's right to facilitate binding arbitration. And this is model legislation. It does contemplate that a state may not agree to all the model legislation's terms. As we said earlier, this is something that DOD has requested, but does allow for us to make changes as necessary. I believe there also was a reverse repeal in it as well. And so as we move forward the process, we're going to even try to tighten it up even further. That's an explanation of the strike all as back before us. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Senator Hobson makes a motion for adoption of the strike all. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Title sufficient do pass. Strike all made by Senator Hobson. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. All right, and I need a motion for rise and report. So
Mr. Chairman, may I make an
Thank you, Senator
announcement?
Wiggins.
And make an announcement, Judiciary A will meet in this room at 4:30, not at 4:09.
Okay, thank you, Senator Wiggins. And we'll see you all tomorrow for the 9 a.m. confirmation hearing.